Since the dawn of capitalism, regulators have been chasing innovators. New ideas, processes, products come out, they run rampant in the market, sometimes causing damages, and then ultimately the government responds and steps up with some sort of regulation and legislation to monitor and control that market in a way that is more consumer friendly. A prime example of this is the tobacco industry, which was wildly successful all the way into the mid 1900s. They had many people using their products. They were able to advertise to children, all these things. And then all of a sudden, we started to study and understand the effects that tobacco and smoking has on the body, the causing of different cancers, and the literal addictive substance of nicotine within the cigarettes themselves. And of course, who can forget secondhand smoke and all these other negative externalities that go on with smoking. Once those were understood, the government stepped in and started to regulate more heavily on the tobacco industry. They restricted advertisements to children. You see a lot of restaurants and places now not allow smoking indoors to eliminate secondhand smoke. There are taxes placed on tobacco products, all of these things to try to dissuade the populace and companies from producing tobacco products. Yet, when it comes to the tech industry and regulation, the government has been notoriously absent in the United States. Technology is transforming ways of living faster than anything else in known human history. The internet has been around now for a solid 25, 30 years, yet the government seems to sit idle while big tech actors are running rampant and doing what they will in that space. One of the major concerns, and the one we'll be talking about today, is data privacy rights and sort of the data mining of personal information, and really the lack of regulation around that by the government. Companies have been collecting personal data for years. They have troves of this information about the populace and individuals throughout the world. A lot of this data is sold through these different data brokers, which has become a very large business, estimated to be about 250 billion as of 2021. This personal data is used by companies to develop statistical models and algorithms that let them learn about you, your preferences, your choices, your habits, probably on a deeper level than you consciously even know about yourself. And that sort of gives this eerie dystopia type feeling. And that's not even to mention anything about data breaches, which is a real concern with privacy. It feels like every year there are these companies that have massive breaches in data. Experian's an example, Cambridge Analytica is another example of really this misuse of data that gets leaked out into the web, and then that information is just out there. What's worse is once these breaches happen, these companies really face no recourse for their screw-ups. You have some lawsuits or settlements that happen against these companies, but ultimately the victim, the user's data, they make very little money off of that settlement, maybe pennies or dollars off of it. But these companies really suffer no negative effects. And that's largely because the US has no singular national law about data privacy. There are laws that cover sort of individual aspects about specific sets of data, like HIPAA, for example, covers health data, and FRCA covers credit information. But a lot of this data, this general data out there, is just sort of freely available, and you as a user don't really have any control over the access to that data to these different companies that collect it. The EU's GDPR law is probably the most significant data privacy law that has come out. It's relatively new. I think it came out in 2018, and that requires companies to ask for permission to share the data, and the individuals have rights to access, delete, or control that data. But like I said, that's a EU law, and here in the US, we don't have quite the similar laws as of yet. When it comes to developing regulation around data privacy, there are sort of 4 areas that deserve basic protections according to a lot of privacy experts. The first is data collection and sharing rights. You should have knowledge and access to what data companies are collecting on you, and you should have the ability to tell them not to sell or share your data to third parties. And of course, you can request that they delete that data that they have on you as well. The second one is opt-in consent. Companies should have to ask you if it may share or sell your data to third parties. You shouldn't have to spend an exorbitant amount of time sort of opting out to the collection of your data through every different service that you're using online. Thirdly, data minimization. A company should only collect what it needs to provide the service you're using. It shouldn't be collecting all this sort of extra data on you. And fourthly, there should be non-discrimination and no data use discrimination. Essentially, what that means is a company shouldn't be able to discriminate against people who exercise their privacy rights. For example, they can't charge you more for protecting your privacy, and they couldn't offer discounts to customers and returns for giving more data. And that regulation should clarify sort of civil rights protections so people can't be discriminated against based off of different demographic information that they have. Lastly, these protection laws really need to be done at the federal level. At the time of making this video, I think there are 3 states that have data privacy laws: California, Colorado, and Virginia. But to do this correctly, we really need to have it at a federal level that applies to the entire country. Data rights really fall under the federal purview, in my opinion. If we have a mishmash of state level laws, that would add a lot of unnecessary complexity and burden to companies in the market that would make this unfeasible, and that would be an argument that these companies would make to prevent those legislations from going into effect. Whereas if it were one standardized law, that would be probably still resisted by companies, but it would at least sort of standardize that information that's being protected. Let me know in the comments below what data privacy rights are important to you, what you'd like to see in a law, and if you like the video, consider giving it a like. It does help me out. Thanks for watching.